we are joined now by your Husker softball coach, Coach Rhonda Revelle. Coach, how are you this morning?
Doing well, getting ready for practice.
Coach, it is so good to talk to you. This might be it's only been a handful of times. I'm either just usually giving you a hug and passing or telling you how excited I am for you, man. I appreciate you taking time in crunch time because I know it's not always fun to talk about stuff when you have actual business to do. So we appreciate your time.
You're very welcome. Thanks for covering us, and it's exciting to have our fans have something to cheer for, right?
Your glass stays half full. And you know this about me. I love listening to you talk about things other than the actual pitching, catching, picking it,
Uh,
the camaraderie, the chemistry, the competitive stamina, the culture, because it's so often when you can't see it, it's really hard to have it come across as understated. So I always like how you bring it to the forefront of what makes
mm,
this team unique.
Thank you. That's actually the fun stuff. That's the stuff that makes it feel special. That's the stuff that connects us. And like I said earlier in the season, I was asked a question: what would make this season successful? And it that they don't want to take off the jersey.
Yeah.
Well, the reason people don't want to take off the jersey, you know why people don't want to take off the jersey, is largely because of the feeling, not because of the scoreboard.
Mm,
Mm, man, that's
yeah.
that's cutting deep early this morning, Coach. Um, I do often think about some of the challenges of creating that feeling that people don't want to leave, especially when you've got somebody that's just a transcendent superstar like Jordy Bahl, right? I know you've coached a ton of good softball players over your career. Probably not as many, probably not many that have the star power of a Jordy Bahl, especially here locally.
Mhm.
Is there, I mean, I'm sure it helps because of Jordy's personality and who she is, but is there a challenge of kind of culturally when so much attention gets focused on one person within the locker room?
In this case, absolutely not. In fact, I think it's just the reverse, and it is 100% because of who Jordy is. Jordy is so other centered
Yeah.
Mm,
when it comes to being about the team and about one mission, but she's also so invested in herself because she understands. She wouldn't state it this way, but she understands what she could do to help a team be successful.
Mm.
So she's so focused on making sure that she's the best she can be, whether it's in rest and recovery or training or thought process or whatever it might be, or just the nuances of anything, any part of her game. But but yet when she's always on the level with everyone around her. And I just think she has so many innate gifts uh, that are intuitive to her that make her such an amazing teammate without really trying, just who she is.
Coach, there's I kind of get chills just listening because you said a couple of things. I always try to listen to you close. People make fun of me for being a big press conference guy, but sometimes I think it really can give you a snapshot into how coaches see things. And you said something the other day that we talk about a lot at the high school level and was preached to me collegiately. It's staying in the moment. And you used
Yeah.
it with her and Jordy being right where she is currently. That pitch, that at bat, not what happened, a couple seconds before, or a couple seconds, forecasting. And it's interesting because it's easy for you to talk about that in terms of her adjectives, but the important part is as a teammate of somebody like that. I always talk about sometimes you need to be a good follower too, and
Hmm.
understand that that doesn't mean you're less competitive or you're taking a back seat. But not everybody can be the leader. Sometimes you have to be a good follower. How
Hmm.
a lot of that's got to come from the culture, but a lot of that has to be instilled in the players that surround her too, because sometimes that doesn't get enough of the shine.
You're right. And, we talk a lot in our program about shared responsibility. And so some people may have a few more bullet points in their responsibilities, but everybody has some. And coming back to Jordy, it's like she was talking, her and Heva Cusack are the first tandem in Nebraska softball to have more than 20 home runs in the same season. And when Jordy was interviewed about it, all she could do is talk about how excited she was for Ava. So right there, like she wasn't even aware there was even such a record, number one, and that's how she's wired. But when she heard about that, she got excited for Ava. And how can you not, as a teammate, lean into that? Because it's genuine. I mean, it's genuine excitement. And so while other people may not have as much spotlight on them, she's going to be the first one to uplift someone. And so I think by that, she'll be the first one. If people try to give her praise or whatever, she'll say, well, we've got a team around us and I've got a team behind me. I've got great defense behind me. And, she'll just go there. So she just doesn't let it stay on her. She'll deflect it. And to your point, you listen to press conferences really closely and you can hear things. Well, they hear her every day and they feel it, that we're all in this together.
Coach, we'll get to the matchup here with Tennessee in just a second, but I'm kind of fascinated by this dynamic. DB and I talk all the time about people that choose Nebraska and people that choose to stay in Nebraska, and I particularly find it fascinating with people that aren't from here that decide to be a part of Nebraska and what they do. Obviously, I think people maybe forget sometimes you're not from here originally because of your history with the university, but you've been obviously player, coach, even spent a little time over at Nebraska Wesleyan, which I appreciate as well. What about Nebraska made it a place that you, not being from here, from a totally different part of the country, are like, oh, I can make a life here and I can, this is a place you wanted to be for so long?
I grew up in a college town because I grew up in Eugene, Oregon. It's pretty darn good college town. And when I came to Lincoln, I thought, oh, I know what it's like to be in a college town until I got here. And I don't know what Eugene's like now, but it was like on steroids. And I remember calling home, back in the day when you called home every Sunday because the calls were less money, right? You had to pay for by the minute. I'm really dating myself here, but I'm like, okay, I think the fans are not only into it, but I think they're a little bit crazy. That's what I tell my family back home. I said, but it's really cool. It's just really cool. And I think that what really caught me as a young person was just the genuineness of the Midwestern people and the culture, and just you do an honest day's work, and you take care of your neighbor. And I just loved all that. And I remember when I graduated and I coached at Wesleyan, and I knew that I wanted to get into coaching, and there weren't a lot of opportunities in Nebraska at the time. And I remember Dr. Barbara Hibner said, sometimes you got to leave to come back, kid. And I'm like, well, I hope I can come back. And I went and I coached in California for 5 years, and then I did have the opportunity to come back. So since 1981, I've been here all but 5 years.
Yeah.
So really now Nebraska is certainly my home, and I love that. But I still maintain the same feeling about just the people in general of this state, just good, hardworking, take care of your neighbor, root for each other, and really it's true. It's cliche, but all stick together in all kinds of weather. I mean, it really, really is true.
Does familiarity breed contempt? Like you're familiar with Tennessee. We know about Pickens. We did the equivalence to how hard she throws from, I'm a baseball guy, so I'm going 60 feet, 6 inches. You're looking at about 107, 108 mile an hour. But you are familiar with what they bring to the table. And I think that we looked at the capacity the other day. You're going to see 2,300 plus whomever is out in the outfield and in the grass with the lawn chairs. You know the environment. How important is that for your team this time around?
It's really important. In fact, I was just on the phone before I got on the phone with you, talking to one of my coaching friends that played there, and I just talked about the environment a little bit. But what I like that our team's doing so well, and for not being in this position, this group, they've been very poised down the stretch. And I know it'll be a different challenge this weekend with the environment, but they've done a really, really good job about making it about us and not the environment. And, we've talked about, I really think there's two ways you can take the environment, and it kind of depends on your personality. You can either kind of make it your white noise where it almost seems to be silencing, or you can feed off the energy of it because that's how you're wired. And so I just encourage them all to go where their natural place is, where it fuels them the best. Like I tend to, it becomes white noise and it almost becomes silent. Like the louder it gets, it almost has this silence to it. So I think, Jordy said all along, because I know we're going to travel, put us in an environment that is just almost hostile. So I'm like, okay, you're getting what you asked for. So
certainly got to be careful what you ask for sometimes. I know all the attention goes to Pickens. It's not like you get a break when she leaves either with Marcheco, who absolutely can deal as well. I mean, in terms of preparing your hitters for facing a couple of aces, for lack of a better term there, how do you get them ready mentally to understand, hey, like I know we may not have a lot of success, but we got to take advantage of the places where we can?
Yeah, well, you're right. It helps that we knew that we were opening up our season against that pitching staff. So literally, we started preparing, and again, they are very good. They're excellent. I mean, there's probably not a better staff in the country, honestly, but we started preparing for them in January because they were our first game. So who are you preparing for? You're preparing for your first game. So that's where we feel like, okay, that gives us at least a little familiarity. And the fact that we actually have seen her and we saw her at night, and at night, the ball, that 75 probably feels like it's 80. And so I just think that there's no doubt that there's going to be a challenge. There's no doubt that there's going to be some swings and misses. There's no doubt that there's going to be some strikeouts. But on the other side of that, you square something up. And it could be a very low scoring game, and we square something up and we make something happen. We take a walk, we take an extra base on a ball that gets in the dirt. She throws so hard down in the zone. Sometimes balls get in the dirt. We play clean defense. We match them pitch for pitch with mentality. We stay in the moment. You know what? You never know what can happen.
I love it. And we were trying to, we watch, I love the sport, especially for the television viewing experience. A little blasphemy. A couple weeks ago, I said I would put it on par with watching college football and maybe wrestling at nationals in terms of its electricity and constant action. And for you guys, if you could pick something, would it be a 1A pitcher on the mound? Would it be timely hitting? Would it be how you pick it, how you play the confines of the ballpark? What's something that we're not talking enough about that you want your team to do well that may be flying under the radar?
Well, I think this time of year, when you get into championship play like this, it's really three things, and you've heard them before. It's good pitching and solid defense and timely hitting. And because the timely hitting is going to be critical, because there's not going to be, I doubt that we're able to uphold our 8.2 runs average per game, per season when we're facing the SEC pitcher of the year. But how about we scratch out 2 or 3 or 4, and they don't scratch out the same amount on the good side for the Huskers, right?
Yeah, absolutely, Coach. We appreciate the time so much. Good luck this weekend down in Knoxville, and let's see if we can get a repeat of the opening of the season to close out Super Regionals as well.
You know what? I'm all in.
Coach,
thank you so much.
After you guys get this one done in Knoxville, you have to promise to come back. I got some comparisons I want to ask you about between this team in 2013, but I'm a big fan of letting you get your tasks done before we start getting too reflectionary.
Okay, I love that.
All right,
and we're in. You've got it.
Appreciate it, Coach.
Coach, thank you so much.
Okay, thank you. Have a good day.
You too.